These are the material we are going to be using for this tutorial. I have 3 yards of Kampala fabric here, and I also have 1 yard of sample net. This sample net is a stretchy one. You can also use a chantilly net, that is much better. I also have 1 yard of skein net. So these are the materials we are going to be using for this tutorial. So we are going to be starting with the drafting of the front pattern first. So this is going to be the starting line and the shoulder line. So now from this starting line, I'm going to place my tape and mark the bust point, the under bust, and the half length. So the half length is 15.5. So for this tutorial, we are going to be making use of the front half length and the back half length. So you have to measure it separately. So you are going to tie a rope around your client's waist, and then you measure from the shoulder to the waist at the front, and then from the shoulder to the waist and the back. So it's going to be different. So for this client now, the shoulder to waist at the front is 15.5, and that of the back is 14 inches. So we are going to be using this for this tutorial, but in case you did not measure this on your client, don't worry, I'm going to tell you what to do. So I'm marking the same thing on the side so that I can get a straight line. So I'm going to take my ruler and mark a straight line across these points. So now you are going to come to this starting line now. So I'm going to be marking 3 inches by 3 inches for the neck measurement, and then I'm going to take my curve and then connect these 2 points together like this. After this, I'm going to bring my tape here again, and then I'm going to be marking half of my shoulder measurement. So my shoulder measurement is 14, half of it is 7. Then I'll come down by 1 inch and connect it to the neckline like this. After doing this, I'm going to place my tape at the shoulder slope, and then I'm going to be getting my armhole. To get your armhole, you divide the bust measurement by 6, and then you add 1.5 inches to that. So this is what it gives me, and at this point now, I'm going to be drawing a straight line across this, and this is going to be the chest line. Then from this shoulder slope, I'm going to connect to the chest line, and this is the armhole length. So at this armhole length now, you are going to locate the middle, and after locating the middle, you go in by half of an inch, and then on the chest line, you are going to divide your bust measurement into 4. Then you are going to mark that out. Now you are going to get your curve and then connect these 3 points together such as to form your armhole. So after marking this, we are going to be labeling it. This is the chest line, this is the bust point, the under bust, and the waistline. So the next thing you are going to do now is to place your dart. So you are going to use half of the nipple to nipple measurements for your dart, and you are going to be placing this on the bust point line. So half of the nipple to nipple measurement is 3 inches. I'm going to place it on the bust points, at the under bust, and at the waistline. And now I'm going to be marking a straight line across these points. So the next thing now is to come to the under bust. At this part, I'm going to mark ½ inch here, and I also mark ½ inch on the waistline. Then I'm going to connect this together in a straight line. Then I'm going to connect from this under bust to the bust point, but I'll be coming down by 1 inch, and then I'll mark from the under bust to this 1 inch mark. Then on the other side here at the under bust, I'm going to be marking 1.5, and I also mark 1.5 on the waistline. Then I'll connect it with a straight line. Then from down that bust, I'll be connecting to the 1 inch that I came down by with my curve like this. So the next thing to do now is to determine how low I want my sweater to be. That is the part where my Kampala fabric will be starting from. So you can decide to mark 6 inches for this, but for me, I want the curve to be very obvious, so I'm going to be marking 5.5. After marking it, I'm going to be drawing a straight line across the point. So now what I'm going to do next is to measure what I have here, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement, that is 3 inches. And now I'm going to be adding 1 inch to that, and I'm going to be marking 4 inches on this 5.5 inches mark on this new line that I marked. Now I'm going to be connecting it to the bust points like this. So this is just me extending my dart. So I'm going to be taking a dart at this upper part also. So I'm just going to take 1 inch on the side this way, and I'm going to be connecting it to the bust point. So you can try to take half inch on both sides, but I don't want it to be straight at this upper part. I just want it to be a bit slanty. So that's why I'm taking it just on a side. So now that we've gotten at that, the next thing now is to carve out our sweetheart shape. So you can start to carve it out. You can start from your chest line if you want your cleavage to show very well, but I don't want it to be too deep and I don't want so much cleavage showing. So I'm just going to measure 8 inches from the shoulder measurement, and that is where I'm going to start my sweetheart shape from. So I'm just going to carve it out from this 8 inches point to the upper part here, to where the dart starts from at this upper part, just like this. So I'm going to be using my free hand. Just watch what I'm doing. I'm just going to copy from this 8 inches to this point here, and then the second side, on the second side of the dart, I'm just going to curve it like this into the armhole line. So I hope you get what I'm doing. So if you find this difficult to do, you can just use your curve. Just place it like this from that 8 inches mark to the beginning of to this upper part where the dart starts from, and then you turn it the other way around, then you curve it into the armhole, just like that. So but I prefer to use my free hand because I believe it does a better job than the curve. So now I'm going to be using my marker to retrace out this line so that it can be more visible. So this is what the sweetheart shape is going to look like. So after doing this now, the next thing is to carve out the yoke. So we already know that this part is where the ankara is going to be, and this upper part we are going to be carving the yoke from. So now I'm going to place my tape here, and then I'm going to be marking out 3.5. We use 3 inches for the neckline, so this time I'm going to be marking out 3.5, and I'm just going to connect it straight down in a V shape. So to know where to stop, I'm just going to place my tape here and mark where 1 inch is, where 1 inch stops. So this is where 1 inch stops. So I'm going to connect it from that 3.5 to this 1 inch like this. So now this part is going to be the yoke. So let me just label it so that we can differentiate that. So now after doing this, now we know that this is the ankara part, this is the yoke. So now we're going to be taking our side measurement. So we already took the bust measurement on the chest line. So this dart that is there on the chest line, we are going to be placing it on the side is 1/4 inch. So now you are going to come to the under bust line, divide the under bust measurement into 4, mark it here, then measure the allowance that you have there, and then you mark it also. The allowance is 2 inches and I'm placing it back. Then on the waistline, I'll do the same thing, divide the bust measurement into 4, mark it, then measure that allowance here and then place it back. So after doing this, I'm going to be connecting this point together with my ruler. So now we said earlier that we are going to be using a side dart. So now I'm going to be placing the side dart. So to know what to place for the side dart, I'm going to subtract my half length for the front, my half length for the back from my half length for the front. So my half length for the front is 15.5. So 15.5 minus 14 inches. This is going to give me 1.5. So it is this 1.5 that I'm going to be using for my side dart. So now on this bust point line, I'm going to be coming down by 1.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 1.5 inch now. Yeah, so now I'm going to be connecting it towards the bust point at the center here. So I'm going to connect it like this to this bust point line. So this is what our side dart is going to be. So now what I'm going to do is, so as to be able to cut out this side dart, I'm just going to cut out this pattern from the rest of the pattern paper. Now I'm going to be tracing out this our sweetheart part of the pattern. So just watch what I'm doing. Then I'm going to be cutting out the yoke. So now I'm going to be drawing this off. This is the yoke. Now I'll be able to cut out the side dart. Now it's going to be easier for me to cut out the side dart. So to cut out the side, I'm just going to slash this part here to the bust point. Just watch what I am doing. I'm going to slash it to this bust point. Now I'm going to be covering it up like this, so you can see what we're going to do. But for this to be easier for me to do, I'll have to open it, this dart part. I have to open the dart at the upper part so that it will be very easy for me to close the side dart. So now I'm just going to close the side dart like this. Then I'm going to be bringing a tape to tape it down. So by the time I join this to the back part, it's going to align because we already closed the side dart. I hope you get that. So now you can see that there's a shift here. So I'm just going to retrace that shift like this. So now I'm going to be trimming this off, and then I can go ahead to cut the rest of the dart. So this is what our front part looks like, and this is the yoke. This is what it's going to look like. So now we are going to draft the back part. So this is the starting line. We are going to place the tape at the starting line and then mark the bust points and then the half length. So remember that we measured the half length for the front part and the back part separately. So for the back it is 14 inches, and that is what we are going to be marking, while that of the front is 15.5. So let's assume that you did not take this measurement on your client. What you can do is subtract 1.5 inch from the front half length, and that will give you that of the back, because for most people the difference is usually 1.5. So now I'm going to be marking a straight line across this point. This is the bust point and this is the half length. And did you note that we did not take the under bust measurement, so it is not needed for the back. So what I'm going to be doing is to mark out 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance. So if you want this dress to snatch very well, then you are going to be using a lating back, but my client does not want that, so that's why I'm using a zipper. So now this starting line, I'm going to be measuring 3 inches by 1 for the back neckline. So I'm going to place my curve this way and then connect it. Then I'm going to place my tape again this way. I'm not going to let it go into the zipper. I'll mark half of the shoulder measurement and then come down by 1 inch, then connect it to the neckline. Then from this shoulder slope, I'm going to mark the armhole depth, the same thing that I marked for the front. So I'm just going to draw a straight line across this, and that's the chest line. Then I'm going to connect from this armhole slope to the chest line. After that, I'll be locating the middle, and then at the middle, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. Then on the chest line, I'm going to be dividing the bust measurement into 4, and then I'm going to mark it. So I'm just doing just what I did for the front part is what I'm doing here also. So that's why I'm rushing it a bit. So the next thing to do now is to place the dart. So I'm going to be using half of the nipple to nipple measurement, but I like to add 1/2 inch to it. So instead of marking 3 inches, I'm going to be marking 3.5, and I'm also going to be marking these 3.5 inches on the chest line. Then I'm going to be connecting these together in a straight line. Then on the waistline, I'm going to be taking 1/2 inch on both sides. Then I'm going to take my ruler and connect this upward just like this. The next thing to do is to determine where I want my yoke to start from. So you can decide to make your yoke start from the chest line, but I don't want it to go that deep. So I want the Ankara and the Kampala part to come up a bit. So I'm going to be making it come down by 5 inches. So this is where I want my Kampala fabric to start from and where my yoke to stop. So now I'm going to draw a straight line across it. Then what I have here on my chest line, I'm going to mark it here also. So I'm just going to extend the dart upward this way. So the next thing now is to carve out our yoke for the back. So I'm going to place my tape and mark 3.5 inches just like we did for the front. And from this 3.5, I'll just connect it downward like a V shape like this. So you can decide to mark 2 inches from the center here. And then so from that 3.5, you connect to just 2 inches. So it's going to form a V shape like this. So this is going to be the yoke, and you'll be cutting the rest off. So now we are going to be taking the side measurement. So we already take the bust measurement on the chest line. So just come to the waistline and divide your waist measurement into 4. Then you mark it. Then you are going to be measuring the dart here, and then you are going to be placing it back here. So now you are going to connect this to the chest line like this. The next thing you are going to do now is to come to this waistline at the zipper area here, and then you'll be taking out half of an inch. So this is to remove the zip bulge that we might be experiencing. So just connect it upward like this. There's no special way to that, and then you are going to be cutting this out. So now I'll cut out the yoke. So this is the yoke and this is the lower part. Then I'll just cut out that as well. So this is what the back side is going to look like. So we are going to be cutting the lower part directly on the fabric. So the first thing to do is to fold the fabric into 2. So what you are going to be using to fold the fabric into 2 is the hip measurement. So you divide your hip measurement into 4, and then you add 3 inches extra. So the hip measurement here divided by 4 is 10.5. So I've added 3 inches to that. So that gives me 13.5. So I've just cut out 13.5 now. So this is 13.5. So I'm just going to trim off this upper part there. Then I'm going to be marking half of an inch, and this will be the starting line for the lower part, and this half inch is going to be used to join the lower part to the upper part. So now this line now is where I'm going to be placing my tape. So I'm going to place my tape at the half length. So the half length is 15.5 for the front part. So I'm going to place it there on the starting line. So you can see me placing 15.5 on the starting line, and now I'm going to be marking the shoulder to hip measurement, which is 26 inches. The shoulder to knee measurement, which is 34 inches, and then the gown length is 56 inches, and then I'm going to be adding 2 inches extra to that. So I'm going to be marking out 58 inches. Now I'm going to be drawing a straight line across each of these points. I hope you get what I did there. So just make sure you are placing your tape at the half length mark. That will be easier. So now you come to the waistline here, and then you divide the waist measurement into 4. So this is what it gives me, and then I'm going to be adding 1 inch for the dart allowance, and then 2 inches for the seam allowance, making 3 inches. Then on the hip line, you are going to divide the hip measurement into 4. So after that, you are going to be adding 2 inches allowance for the seam allowance. Then on the nail line, what I have on the hip line, I'm going to bring it to the nail line, but I'm going to be deducting half of an inch. So half of an inch, if you don't want the dress to be so fitted on the person, like the lower part to be too fitted, but if you want the lower part to be fitted to an extent, then you are going to deduct 1 inch. So for this client, I'm going to be deducting 1 inch from what I have on the hip measurement. So now what I have on this nail line exactly is what I'm going to be measuring on the hem line. I hope you get that. So now I'm going to take my hip curve and connect from the waistline to the hip line, and then from the hip line to the nail line. Then I'm going to use my ruler to connect the rest in a straight line to the hem line. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So for the back part, I folded the fabric into 2 also, and I placed the front part on it. So what we are going to be doing now, I just make sure that I add 2 inches here for the zipper allowance. So on the hip line now, we are going to be marking 1.5 inches, because 1.5 inches is what we use for the zipper allowance at the upper part. So on this waistline, we are going to take out half of 1 inch. So instead of marking 1.5, I'm going to be marking half inch here, and the 1 inch that is left, I'm going to be marking it on the side. So I have 1 inch on the side here and half inch at the center. Then for the nail line, I'm going to be marking 1 inch. So I'm going to be deducting half inch from the 1.5. So on the hip line, I have 1.5. On the waistline I have half inch, and on the knee line I have 1 inch. So that is what I have there. So what I have on the knee line is what I'm going to mark on the hem line also. I'm going to be marking 1 inch. So I'm going to connect this to the hem line with my straight ruler. So now the 1 inch that I placed back on the side here from the waistline, so I'm going to connect it to the hip line like this. So this is what is going to get. So for the, let me come again, for the waistline, on the waistline I marked half inch at the zipper area, on the hip 1.5, and on the knee line 1 inch. So now the front part, I'm going to be marking out the pattern on the fabric. So I don't want this video to be too long, it's already long enough. So I'm going to be uploading the sewing tutorial. So don't forget to like this video, give your comment, subscribe to this channel, and turn on your notifications so that you get notified when I upload the sewing tutorial. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next. Bye.